How does somebody like Roy Whited just vanish?
White County High School are Tennessee state champions again for the second year in a row under Roy Whited. What an incredible run by the Warriors.
The Bible says Jesus is the good shepherd. He calleth his own sheep by name and leadeth them.
49 down, 49. I am in heaven.
After he retired as a teacher, he became a real estate agent and auctioneer.
Who is Roy Whited? My name is Brad Walker, and Roy Whited was my high school basketball coach, but he was much more than that. He was a mentor, he was a friend, he was a boss. I worked for him at his auction company, at his antique store.
Well, Roy was, of course, he was a teacher. He taught high school history. He's also a basketball coach, and he actually won the state championship 2 years running. After he retired as a teacher, he became a real estate agent and auctioneer. And in the process of working as a real estate auction, he got the call to preach. And so he went back to school while he was doing all his teaching or his real estate, and became a preacher, and was a preacher for 14 years.
Can you tell us about his disappearance?
He was seen at his office on May the 3rd. They were working, and at about 2:45, he said he was going to go look at a piece of property that he was interested in, and said bye to everybody and left, just like he normally did. No one seen him over the weekend. The other partner in the real estate company had texted him multiple times and tried to call him, but he never did answer. And she thought that was a little strange, but she didn't go check on him. And then Sunday morning, he didn't show up for his church. And so the church family came, and the landlord lives next door. They got the landlord came in and went through the house, and he wasn't there. Then they called 911. At that time, they started searching. The guy next door he has a Ring doorbell camera. He saw all the activity in the police, so he called the landlord and told him. He said, he says, I got a video of his truck coming in. It's Friday afternoon, about 3:45. And it was really strange because a bee flew in front of the sensor. He turned the camera on, you could hear the bee, and you could see his truck pull into the driveway. Otherwise, it would not. We'd have never seen that. So the sheriff come, the state patrol come, TBI. They did a little searching then. At that time, the nephews called me, and I immediately came up and got here late Sunday night. Monday morning, we organized a search, and we did some preliminary searching around the property and didn't find anything. And later on that week, we organized a large search. We had about 107 people. We had horses, dogs, and we did a huge sector search and didn't find anything.
And that was at his house?
It was at his house, yes. There's a hunting area behind the house, It's about 1,300 acres, and we did contact the people who that have the lease on it. And he's got 40. I think he said he had 42 cameras, and he went through every camera, and there was nothing that showed my brother going into the woods there.
Okay. Now that piece of property he went to go and look at, can you confirm he was ever there?
No,
Okay. Um,
Was his vehicle left at the house?
left at the house. He always left his keys at the vehicle unlocked, and left his keys on the console because he continuously lost keys. So that was his way of leaving them there. The house was locked, uh, and his phone was on the nightstand, plugged up to the charger.
okay, so he didn't have his phone with him.
Did not have his phone.
So with that ring camera, can they see who got out of the truck?
No.
Was it
No,
okay?
it just showed just a brief of it making the turn into the driveway.
Is there any evidence that he went inside that house that day?
Well, his phone was on the charger.
Okay, yes,
So
you did say that.
Did he live alone?
alone, yes. Mhm.
Were dogs ever brought out?
Yes. Yeah, they brought dogs out. They brought bloodhounds and cadaver dogs,
Okay.
and they did a complete search then. Later on, brought in Norwegian Ridgebacks, which are extremely good tracking dogs, and they couldn't get a scent either.
Was that on that Sunday?
The Sunday was the first dogs, and then I brought in a friend of mine contacted me, and he had the Norwegian Ridgebacks, and he said he would love to bring them out, and he did, and we went through the whole area, and they didn't hit on anything either.
Would he ever just get a ride with someone and go somewhere?
I would say no. Roy loved to drive. He hated to be the passenger in the vehicle. So if he was going anywhere, I would say he would have driven.
Okay. Now, is there any areas that he's from Tennessee?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So is there other, I know you're in Alabama. Is there any other ties to any cities or states?
We grew up in a little town called Jamestown, Tennessee. Went to elementary and high school there. He coached basketball in Jamestown. He also coached basketball in a little town called Clark Range. So I went through all of those areas. I've contacted the sheriff's departments and the police departments and give them flyers, but nothing yet.
And how often before his disappearance did you have contact?
Texting all the time, phone calls. I would come up and spend the week with him. Since I retired military, I would been able to actually come up and spend more time with him, and we spent a lot of time together. We sat out on his back porch, drink coffee, and talk theology. And
Did you notice any change in him at all?
I did not. He was the same go-getter. He just couldn't be still. But
Always on the go.
always on the go, always having to do something, help somebody. He was constantly, going and helping somebody do this, do that.
Did he, how long did he live in the area?
He's been in that house for 2.5 years, I believe, renting it. And
Did he have friends around him in the neighborhood that he?
everybody, he never met a stranger. Didn't matter what class you were in. He was your friend. He'd come up, pat you on the back, shake your hand. He'd know your name and would remember your name. I can't do that, but yeah.
And the investigation, besides grid search or besides dog searches, what else has been done in the investigation?
Of course, the sheriff's department, they've pretty much expended all that their assets they can. It's because it's a missing person. There's no, there wasn't one piece of paper out of place in his house. Everything was perfect, just the way he left it. There's no evidence of a crime whatsoever. So it's not been ruled a crime, it's still a missing person. So they've expended, they keep trying and looking, but there's been no leads. There's been no communication. We've offered a $15,000 reward for anything that leads us to him. And it's just nothing.
And there was a silver alert issued, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes. The TBI issued the silver alert because it was so strange on that Sunday. They got it out immediately because, you know, he vanished, and they're like, well, maybe he had a stroke or he had something that went wrong with his cognitive thinking.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the last confirmed sighting where they actually physically saw him was Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Did he talk about anything else other than going to visit that property he was interested in?
No.
Okay.
They normally have auctions on Saturdays, but they didn't have an auction coming up that Saturday, so he was going to go home and study and get ready for church.
I had read that there was a possibility that he had walked out of the house in the middle of the night. That's never been confirmed
No.
at all. Okay.
That was
And,
like 2
and
a.m.
Yeah.
well,
yeah.
and that came. The power company has that meter that shows the hourly usage, and at midnight the usage went to nearly nothing.
Oh.
So that was why they were thinking maybe he left at midnight on Friday night. But
Turned all the lights off.
the light, you're right. TV off, lights off. Yep.
And you didn't know if he had any timers on any of his lights
No, he
by
did not.
chance,
He
like
did
it
not.
would do it
Right.
automatically.
Right.
Did the power stay the same?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Once it
they
went
never-
down, it's just the refrigerator and the air conditioner was the only thing running, and it stayed level.
Was he one to turn off everything before he left? Or would he
Mm,
leave on a couple lights? Or
he would normally leave on a couple lights because
Okay.
it is back in the country, and
You like to see where you're
Yeah,
going when you get home.
all right.
Yeah. And was his phone searched?
Yes,
And
phones, and he had 2 laptops and an iPad, and TBI took them and downloaded everything, and it was pretty much business and church. There was
wow.
and he had no enemies or anything like that?
none that
Interesting.
yeah.
Hey Jessica, it's been a few weeks since we were in Tennessee with you. I heard you've been working Roy Whitehead's case.
I have absolutely.
So can you give us a little update on what's going on down there?
Yeah, absolutely. I have traveled down to Cookeville and Sparta, and I've met with some pretty amazing people. The PI that Lynn has hired, I have met with, as well as some old classmates, students of Roy's, and talked with them on the phone, and got to learn a lot about Roy.
With that, have you discovered what's the latest on what the police have done in his case?
The police have done nothing, to be totally honest with you. They have done nothing. They still rule it as a missing person case, so it's not a crime. So therefore, their resources are completely limited. They won't, with some of the tips that have come in, they won't utilize their resources because there's no proof of any crime.
And what I've heard is the PI handling the case is actually the former sheriff.
He sure is.
Wow.
He sure is. Yep.
And even with that type of connection, they have not done anything with this case recently.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep. The PI is actually having a hard time getting a hold of people to try to make this case move forward, do something with it. He's even running into roadblocks that he's unable to get in touch with anybody or anything like that.
So with that, it sounds like you guys have had some tips come in.
Yeah. Yep, there has been tips that have been given to the police department in full by the hard work of the community that absolutely loves Roy. They've done all of the investigations into these tips and things like that, presented it to law enforcement, and that's it. Nothing has been done.
Wow.
Yeah.
How has the community reacted?
The community is one in a million, that is for sure. Driving down into Sparta, there are signs for Roy that Lynn has put out, and they're in yards all over Sparta. It's really amazing to drive down there and know that they have not forgot about Roy, and they have fully supported the investigation into trying to bring him home. They're very involved because Roy was very involved with everybody in that community himself. He was so giving and helping everybody that it's their turn to help him and be his voice. So it's amazing to drive through there and see it.
Now looking online, you would think TBI is completely handling this case. What is TBI doing in the case? What is their role? If you know,
They don't have control over the case. They only put out the silver alert. So they, not having control over the case, can't do anything unless White County requests TBI to be involved, which they have not. So their hands are tied
wow, that's
until White County decides that.
so they said that their resources are limited, but won't reach out for more resources.
Correct, because they claim that, yeah, since it's just a missing persons case, they've done everything they can.
Was it confirmed Roy was driving his truck home?
No. Nope, that video does show Roy's truck pulling into the driveway, but it has not been confirmed that Roy is the one driving.
Did police dogs ever pick up a scent?
They did pick up a scent. I'm not positive if it was the police dogs or the ones that Lynn brought in, but the dogs did hit on a scent, and it followed Roy's scent down the road, down Lovejoy Road, and it abruptly stopped.
Now, originally, in the original news articles and media, they said that Roy was spotted walking down the road. Is that still true?
Yes. As far as we know, that is true. He was seen walking in cowboy boots, so I don't think he was going too terribly far. I can't walk very far in cowboy boots, but he was walking down the road on Lovejoy Road, and that, I think, is where his scent was picked up.
Was his truck or home ever fingerprinted and processed?
Never. His truck, to this day, has not been fingerprinted and is no longer in the driveway. His home was just walked through to make sure that he was not there, and no other investigation inside his house or the truck was ever done.
And the last question I have for you is, what can the community do to help?
The community's been doing a fantastic job at keeping Roy's name out there, his face being seen. So continuing to talk about Roy, never giving up on Roy, and calling in anything that you think might be the slightest clue. And it could be that missing puzzle piece. So being his voice as well as showing his face all around town is definitely needed. We need that last puzzle piece.
So if Roy were to see this now, is there anything that you would like to tell him?
We love you. We want you back. Call me, text me, let me know somehow, and I will come get you.
There's one thing that I would like to just close with. I think that I've thought about so much. What if the tables were turned? What if on May 3rd, Brad Walker, was missing? I've told people often that if that were the case, then he would be much further along than we are. That in the 1998 state championship year, I was one of only two seniors. I was the team captain and leader, and he spent much time pushing me and encouraging me and helping me to lead the team. And during the summer before that year, we picked up along the way a phrase that really was the theme of our year, and it was hold the rope. There's no other person that I can think of that I've ever known that if I were on the end of the rope that needed help, that I would not want on the other end to be Roy Whited. Hold the rope. It says, what is holding the rope? Imagine you're hanging from the edge of a cliff with a drop of 20,000 feet. The only thing between you and a fall to your death is a rope. With the person of your choice on the other end, who do you know that has the guts to pull you to safety? Who will hold the rope? Who do you know that is going to let the rope burn their hand and not let go? How many people that you know are going to withstand the burning pain and watch the blood drip from their hands for you? If you can name two people, that's not good enough, because those two people might not be around. The next time you're with your team, look around and ask yourself, who could I trust to hold the rope? Who is going to let their hands bleed for me? When you can look at every member on your team and say to yourself that they will all hold the rope, you are destined to win a lot of ball games. You see, the team that holds the rope when the going gets tough are the winners. When you're down by 4 points with 30 seconds to go, don't give up. Yell at your teammates, hold the rope. Let it burn and don't let go. Every year, there are winners and losers in all sports. Every year, the winners hold the rope. You don't have to have the best team on the field to win the game. You just have to hold the rope.
We're holding the rope for Coach Roy White.
We're holding the rope, Roy. We're holding the rope, Roy.
We're holding the rope, Roy.
We are holding the rope, Roy.